Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So we are in the third evening of a 75 evening series. The list started from 21st of October, the entire series, and we have now come to the third day. My job just now is very limited. I have to just introduce the leader of today's evening, the lady who has worked to make this evening, the next 120 minutes happen and happen meaningfully, productively. This particular series commemorating 75th year of India's independence and also 101 years of media education in India and South Asia. This series upholds the spirit of communication in the truest sense and is inclusive and diverse in its presentation, opinion, faces, and people. And you'll have a glimpse of that today as well. I have now the pleasure to introduce to you the moderator of the day, the lady who made this day happen, this evening happen, brought you all together, Dr. Tabina Anjum Qureshi, a journalist, a media educator, and an internationally awarded visual storyteller who writes on politics, gender issues, environment, and development issues, who also has been earlier a full-time dedicated media person working as the chief of bureau of Deccan Herald, has worked with Patrika, and today writes her columns, reports, and analysis in Outlook, one of the leading magazines of India. She also appears in BBC, writes for Telegraph, Caravan, and many others, DNA, and many others. Alongside, very interestingly, which is like a dream thing, we all often think when we teach, we miss the field, the profession. And when we are in the field, working as a journalist or a filmmaker or an ad man, we miss academics. She blends both. She teaches at IIMC, Rajasthan University, University of South Australia, and is also the director of visual storytelling department of FTII Pune. So over to you, Dr. Tabina, to lead the evening's proceedings.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary, for this wonderful introduction. Thank you a lot. You forgot to mention that we are dear friends.
Oh, really? Yes, surely for that matter.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody present here. I, on behalf of Global Media Education Council, GMEC, welcome all of you to the third episode of GCEC. Conclave 2021-22, it's spread over 75 days. This mega event will encompass the developments over the past 75 years since India became independent. Talking about the number 75, the event will feature talks by 75 Indian stalwarts, 75 overseas stalwarts. It will also witness the release of books, reports, and presentations by 150 young scholars. The theme of today's webinar is Changing Media Landscape Amid Digital Divide. GCEC official partners are IAMCR Media and Entertainment Skill Council and Makhanlal Chaturvedi University, Madhya Pradesh. It's my privilege to introduce you all to the esteemed chair for today's webinar, Professor Shahid Rasool. Professor Rasool is presently Professor and Dean of School of Media Studies and Director Media and Public Relations Center at Central University of Kashmir, Ganderbal, Jammu and Kashmir. Formerly has been a US Fulbright Fellow. He was the former director of SEMCA, Commonwealth of Learning, Canada, Director EMRC, University of Kashmir, Media Advisor at University of Kashmir, and headed Media Education Research Center at University of Kashmir. Professor Rasool.
Tabina?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
To begin with, I must congratulate Global Media Education Council for having thought of celebrating India's 75 years of independence in the form of an exciting GCEC, Global Communication Education Conclave, with a wonderful idea. And all the credit for this goes to Professor K.G. Suresh, our president, and then our very vibrant General Secretary, Professor Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary ji. It's because of his hard work and dedication that all of us were in fact, brought together by him, as well as my colleagues, Vice Presidents, Professor Amrish Saxena ji, Uma Shankar Pandey ji, whom we call the USP, and his name as USP is, the USP probably of the GCEC also. So I thank you all for honoring me to give the opportunity to chair this session on an important theme which we have chosen, on which we have a galaxy of the speakers today who will speak on the theme, which of course, include Professor Ashok Ogra ji, whom we are also conferring the Achievement Award, Lifetime Achievement Award. We also have Dr. Arvind Mariam, former Finance Secretary, Govt of India, who will be one of our speakers. We have a corporate speaker, Dr. Akash Muni. Then we have one paper presentations also from Argentina, Mr. Sergio from Argentina, and one Dr. Mosimi from Reganade. Dr. Reganade is also presenting a paper. So we have 1.5 hour, 90 minutes of galaxy of speakers who will speak on this particular topic. But given that I have a limited time to speak, when I think about the changing media landscape and the digital divide, at first sight it looks like we are contradicting ourselves, in the sense that when the digital what we call the revolution is taking place in the entire world, the media landscape is changing fast. On the other hand, we have a digital divide where people who don't have access to the gadgets are left behind. But then if we see the things that have been happening over a period of time, because we live in what's called the age of acceleration, which Thomas Friedman says. And this age of acceleration has happened because there is an exponential growth of microprocessors and chip technology. There is easy availability of cellular and mobile telephones. There is an expanding, what we call, the internet networks. Can somebody allow me to? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Listen.
And then we have increasing bandwidth from 2G to 2G to 5G. On the other hand, we are also seeing that when it comes to the digital divide, we see that Africa and Asia are on the lower side, while as Europe and North America and the Pacific, their digital divide is less as compared to ours. We are around 10% to 20% of the householders have access to the digital gadgets and this, but there the digital divide is less. But when we look at the data consumption over a period of time, in today's date, irrespective of where you are, an average human being is consuming 7.2 GB of the data, and monthly 7.2 GB of data, an average mobile phone user is using it. In 2014, if we remember, the total data that was consumed globally was 2.3 exabytes. That means 2.3 billions of gigabytes were being consumed. And if we come to 2021, it has already crossed around 40 exabytes. That means 40 billions of gigabytes. Gigabytes are, somebody's mic is on. Gigabytes is on. So these things are happening very fast, and it is happening, around the globe. And as Thomas Friedman also says in his another book, the world is flat, that the leveling is taking place. The digital divide is definitely, reducing with every passing day. And we see, in our own country also, that we have a huge number of the internet users. Around 79% of our population, believe that the new technology offers more opportunities, and the average our 6 hours and 30 minutes are being used by our average persons using internet, and 2 hours and 30 minutes on social media. When we look at the traditional or the conventional media, be that the newspapers or be that radio or be that television, the use of these gadgets is going down with every passing day. Today, I mean, we can say confidently that television is no longer the family medium. You don't have a mass audience for this. TV as a medium is fast dying, and it's only a matter of time that we will be declaring television as a dead medium. The content will remain, but probably television sets will not be seen, as we have seen in case of the radio. In case of the radio, we have already seen that the radio sets are not available with the people, but people listen to the radio on different devices. They listen to the radio on their mobile phones. Same is happening with the television. And with huge number of these digital natives, especially in a country like India, which is considered a very young country, because the median age in India is around 28 years. We have a huge population of digital natives who are watching television not on the television sets in our homes. They are watching on these mobile phones. So the landscape is definitely changing. The digital divide is going down. So amid this, we have to make sense to find out, how the new media, the old media can survive, and how it can transform itself to remain relevant. So I hope that during this particular session we have today, since we have a galaxy of the speakers in this session, I will not come in way of the speakers and our audience for this particular session. I will conclude my opening remarks here with a request to Dr. Tabina to please introduce the next guest.
Sure.
And then we go ahead with this program, and I will have my concluding remarks at the end of this program. Thank you very much for honoring me by allowing me to chair this session. Thanks a lot, Tabina.
Thank you so much, Professor Rasool, for the kickstart of this session. Now, I may introduce tonight's chief guest, Dr. Arvind Mayaram. It is indeed a proud moment for all of us to have amongst us the chief guest of the evening, Dr. Arvind Mayaram, former Finance Secretary, Government of India, and presently Economic Advisor to Government of Rajasthan. Dr. Mayaram has a PhD in finance. He is also Vice Chairman of Rajasthan Economic Transformation Advisory Council and Economic Advisor to the Chief Minister of Rajasthan. He is associated with Govt Institute for Regulation and Competition as its chairman. He also chairs the board of ACCESS Development Services. He has earlier held the positions of Finance Secretary, Minority Affairs Special Secretary in the Ministry of Rural Development in the Government of India. He has also been alternate governor for India on the boards of World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and the African Development Bank. He was India's finance deputy in G20 and BRICS. He sat on the boards of the Reserve Bank of India and Securities Exchange Board of India. He was also India's negotiator for BRICS New Development Bank and Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank AIIB, and co-chair of the Framework Working Group of G20. His expertise is in the area of PPPs, is internationally acknowledged. He has been recognized as certified public-private partnership specialist by the Institute for Public-Private Partnerships, IP3, and Water Engineering and Development Center at University of UK. So we are eager to hear you tonight to speak on the topic macroeconomic stability and unconventional policy responses, a policy premiere for journalists. So,
thank you, Tabina. Thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this webinar. I would actually speak in a way, I hope you can hear me, because I am not an expert on media per se. I would like to talk a little bit about the interplay of media and its influence on policy making and how it can it determines the policy choices that are made, especially in the area of macroeconomic management of the country. In times when economics drives politics in the long run, it is important to understand how media plays an important role in informing or disinforming public opinion. Macroeconomic management is not only a function of policy, but also of public opinion as it widens or narrows the policy choices for decision makers. It is received wisdom that in democracies, informed public opinion is critical to political choices we make. When there is what we can call media capture, consequences that follow become crucial in determining where the country would move towards. The topic of today's discussion is not only interesting, but it also highlights a very critical aspect of how our social information framework is being radically changed without much debate on it. While we have been talking about growing economic inequalities for quite a while, and these have been exacerbated during the pandemic, there has been very little discussion on how rapid digitalization of our information framework is changing the contribution of the media to informing the public. If press, a subset of media, was termed as the fourth estate or the fourth pillar of democracy, it was because of its explicit capacity of advocacy and implicit ability to form public opinion on socio-political issues, which include economic issues. One of the most powerful scenes from Attenborough's film Gandhi is the reporting by Webb Miller, the only foreign correspondent who winced and almost cried each time the wave of satyagrahis were struck down by the British police while reporting on the phone to his newspaper. Between 1905 and 1947, there was a propaganda war between Indian nationalists and the British officials for the support of Americans, writes South Asia historian Leonard Gordon. It is interesting to see how the quest to occupy the mind space of the global and Indian public opinion was one of the major tools of the freedom fighters who we are celebrating this year with our 75th year of India's independence celebrations. Chandrika Kaul, in her Communications, Media and the Imperial Experience, quotes a Government of India Home Office secret memo dated April 2, 1930, which stated, and I quote, "We have recognized from the beginning that Gandhi's campaign depends to a very large extent for its effectiveness on publicity. Consequently, our policy has quite definitely been to curtail the Gandhi publicity and to do as much counter publicity of our own as is feasible," unquote. I have taken you back to freedom movement because of two specific reasons. First, that was a time when there was no internet, telecommunication was sketchy, telegraphic system was rudimentary, means of travel were also not convenient. But the correspondents, the news editors took their responsibilities seriously and trudged all over the world, often risking their own lives to report events truthfully. Second, to demonstrate how the freedom fighters could effectively use media to shape the global public opinion, because the fourth estate of democracy understood its responsibility of investigating facts and reporting them truthfully, with integrity, without any fear or favor. The question we must ask ourselves is, what has changed since then? Why has there been a decline in the quality of media since then, but more of that later? To demonstrate the power of media and disinformation, let me take you back to the economic crisis of 2011-14, which provides a classic backdrop to understand how less than inquisitive media lapped up everything that came out of the stables of the institutions, like the Comptroller and Auditor General, without questioning. And even the Supreme Court was taken in by the rhetoric of corruption without really understanding the wider implications on the economy. Let's discuss two of the better known cases that resulted in the rout of the UPA2 in the 2014 elections as cases in hand. The 2G scam, as it came to be known, erupted from the CAG's report on spectrum allocation. The policy followed was of allocation on the first come basis. The allocation was made on payment of fixed license fee and a revenue share, a policy enunciated by the NDA government during 98-2003 period. The principle of larger public good was followed, and this is important for those in the media to understand that policy is made in a particular environment, and therefore it has to be judged keeping that in mind. As I said, the principle of larger public good was followed while deciding between higher revenues and wider reach. It was assumed that by keeping the entry fee low, there would be more competition, driving the prices down for the consumers. This will help greatly penetration of mobile services and make these affordable for the poor. CAG forayed into the policy space by pronouncing presumptive loss of the order of about 1.5 lakh crores. This was calculated on some formula based on the auction price discovered while selling residual spectrum in saturated circles. There were problems with the process followed for determining first come, and there could have been a case of rent seeking to some extent during process management. However, there was no case for presumptive loss because it was a policy choice made by not one but two governments. The media did not go into the details. The report was taken as evidence of massive corruption and played up. The Supreme Court also was swayed by the argument and passed the since modified order that all natural resources should be auctioned. Supreme Court itself modified this order subsequently, but the damage was done. This uninformed media reporting had two serious consequences. First, an atmosphere of massive corruption in the system was played up, which paralyzed decision-making in the government, which in turn was detrimental to public welfare. And secondly, the focus on the possible corruption in the process management was lost. In the end, no one was ever convicted for corruption in the 2G case. The second was the so-called coal scam. Once again, the CAG report brought out glaring irregularities in coal allocation. Once again, the policy of allocation of coal mines for captive power plants and other similar activities was questioned. Some of those allocated the coal mines were found to be fraudulent. The Supreme Court stepped in and cancelled coal mine allocations, around 214 in all, that central government had made between 1993 and 2010, which is 20-year period. This had a major impact on the Indian economy. First, it jeopardized huge investments already made by the investors over the years. This in turn created a huge overhang on the financial system, impacting the balance sheets of the banks. Non-performing assets mounted sharply. Secondly, it shook the confidence of the investors, creating an atmosphere of policy and regulatory uncertainty. In the short run, it also resulted in shortages of coal supply, making it necessary to import more coal from abroad, with consequences on the foreign exchange reserves. In the case of coal allocation, process irregularities were found, and a secretary to the Government of India known for his impeccable honesty, was convicted on technical grounds under the Prevention of Corruption Act. The rapid digitalization of information framework is sharply bringing into focus the inadequacies of the already largely compromised media and fulfilling their responsibilities to the people in two ways. Firstly, there is a growing divide between those in media who have access to high-speed internet, capacities to use technology to expand their reach and to mine data and get information from the World Wide Web, which is now crowded with terabytes of information. And those who are living in and reporting from remote, rural, tribal, mountainous areas or the desert areas with very poor connectivity or availability of technological tools. We are therefore seeing such areas and human stories of misery brought about by the economic policies disappearing from sites. Both electronic or print media is largely focused on urban or peri-urban areas which are easily accessible. Of course, Tabina is one of those who are accepted from this, but mostly we are seeing this is what is happening. The small town reporter is slowly fading away. Secondly, there is very little desire to work at a story, delve deep into its nuances, cut through complex and voluminous information, and also huge propaganda being pushed as impartial truths and push into the media to allow people to form informed opinions. With very little time or patience for painstaking work, the media works at headline bite management. Therefore, the line between rumor or propaganda and in fact reporting is getting blurred. No one is called out for the errors because by the time fact check is done, the next headline is already grabbing the eyeballs. Hit and run is the name of the game, and in this, I'm sorry to say it is difficult to distinguish between the reporters and the trolls. This is far more pronounced when it comes at evaluating economic policies, as we have seen in the case of demonetization and the blotched GST implementation. Social media with alphabet restrictions and driven by algorithms which filter out certain types of information and pushes another type of information, as we have seen in the case of the serious allegations made against Facebook and Twitter, is also a major threat to the survival of relevant media. If the so-called WhatsApp university can produce all kinds of fact-fiction mishmash, and this becomes a source of easy information, the propensity to do the grunt work which produces real media reporting continues to shrink, and pushing fiction and propaganda so easily available on social media becomes the norm. The question then is, do we still need media persons to be paid? Can't a small team simply lift whatever fits the TV newspaper's editorial ideology from social media and push it as fact, something which would reduce the overheads considerably? It is therefore imperative to develop new capacities in the media persons to rebalance the information framework in a networked world. These include a completely new paradigm of the test of integrity in reporting with a very strong self-regulating ethical format. Secondly, the lack of digital and media literacies, critical thinking and communication skills in order to navigate and evaluate data online must be addressed through extensive and regular capacity building programs for the journalists. It is also critical to bridge information and knowledge gap by creating online independent data mining resources that would help the editorial function to fact check on all reports that stream in and verify authenticity. Such resources must have an arm's length relationship with the users. In other words, these could be common use special purpose vehicles. Above all, capacity building and empowerment of the outliers in the information framework, like those working in remote areas, is also critical. They must be mainstreamed and their stories must become a matter of national concern. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mayaram, for this wonderful speech, for this wonderful lecture. I mean, throwing light on the present time media, and how important it's still to have small time journalists, and journalism is already losing sheen in rural areas, and why we need reporters from the ground telling us story. Thank you so much for this informative session. I thank you on behalf of GMEC, and we would be very delighted to have your paper presented in our upcoming book. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now it's this time of the evening when, on behalf of GMEC and GCEC, we announce the Lifetime Honor Award to a personality for his stellar contribution in the field of media academics. To announce and to confer the award, may I please request Professor Shahid Rasool to do the honors. Professor Rasool.
Thank you, Davina. I think I feel privileged and honored to honor Professor Ashok Ogra ji, who is not only a media educator, but a very wonderful human being. For me, he is more than a mentor, a philosopher, a friend, and a guide. So it's an honor for me to read a brief CV of Professor Ashok Ogra ji, a noted media professional and media educator. He has over 45 years of experience of working in senior positions across media platforms, be that print, broadcast, or education. You are not allowing me to read. Somebody is changing the screen.
No, please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead. Yeah.
So Professor Ogra ji is currently advisor mass communication for reputed APJ Education Society in Delhi. Till recently, he was director of APJ Institute of Mass Communication, that has figured among the top 10 media institutes of India in leading publications. He started his career as a freelance journalist, writing non-political features for leading publications, including Hindustan Times, Indian Express, Mainstream, etc. Later, he joined Tribune in 1977 as a full-time reporter. In 1978, he was selected as producer News and Current Affairs. During this period, he produced news shows and features. Professor Ogra became director of Doordarshan through UPSC at a fairly young age in 1988 and excelled in broadcast production and management. In 1995, he resigned from Doordarshan and became senior member of the startup team that launched Discovery Channel and Animal Planet, where he worked as vice president in charge of entire South Asia region. During his tenure, both Discovery Channel and Animal Planet emerged as most reputed media brands in the entire region, and they are still thriving on that. He also taught at the reputed Film and Television Institute, Pune during 1980-85. He is a jury member of various film festivals, including Indian National Film Award, News Broadcasting Award, and chairman of the UNESCO SEMCA jury for video competitions. He is a member of the Board of Studies of Mass Communication Research Center at Jamia Millia Islamia. He has been a member of the Executive Council of Central University of Jammu and also served on the Board of Studies, University of Rajasthan, Management School of Jammu University, and other central state government private universities, including Central University of Kashmir, where I am working as Dean School of Media Studies. He is also a member of Indian Advisory Group of UKIRI, UK-funded project to support research and innovation in media institutions in India and UK. He is a member of the Advisory Council for Asia, Commonwealth Educational Media Center for Asia, which is an intergovernmental body of the Commonwealth countries. He is also a regular invitee as a speaker at both national and international forums. He writes regularly for newspapers on art, culture, media, and book reviews because he is a voracious reader. And I have the privilege to declare that the Global Media Education Communication is honored to recognize the stellar contribution by Professor Ashok Ogra ji to the field of media and communication. Sir, we at GMEC have the honor to confer Lifetime Achievement Award on you and are thankful to you for accepting this award. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to congratulate and welcome Professor Ashok Ograji. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tabina.
Yes, sir. The video will be played now. Yeah.
Yeah, please play the video.
We would like to congratulate Professor Ogra. Now, can we have a quick video, please, in his honor? Krishna?
Thank you, Tabina.
Yes, sir.
Can we
Thank you
invite
so
Professor
much.
Ashok Ograji?
Can we
for his
have,
address?
please, Professor Ashok Ograji? And so we are keen to hear you speaking on the content in digital ecosystem. Sir.
Thank you, Tabina. Thank you, Dr. Shahid Rasool. I'm deeply honored by this Lifetime Achievement Award. Puts a certain stamp of age on me. Nevertheless, I accept it. I'm sure I am in the company of great stalwarts who have been recognized earlier and will be recognized in subsequent sessions. Thank you so much. At the very outset, grateful thanks to Global Communication Education Council for the honor to be among such distinguished panelists. My special thanks to what I call the giant, Professor K.G. Suresh, to ever energetic Ujjwal Chaudhary, soft but solid Dr. Shahid Rasool, intellectually vibrant Professor Uma Shankar Pandey, noted academician Amri Saxena for driving this great initiative. What a great idea it is. To get teachers on a single platform calls for great communication skills. My thanks to my own young but with rich credentials, colleague Tabina Anjum, who has excelled in various fields, including print journalism, but now lately in visual storytelling. And I'm reminded of the famous book Mega Trends, which said that the future will belong to the visual narrative, as visual narrative will overwhelm the literal narrative. And we have an example of the Harry Potter book. When it came with visuals, it oversold 10 times more than when the first edition came in literary form. The topic, changing media landscape, digital ecosystem, is appropriate both from the perspective of an educator, but also from the viewpoint of industry and the content creators. I will try to enlarge the scope by going beyond news, because we have a tendency to invariably focus in all such seminars on news. And I must tell you that news constitutes a very, very single decimal percentage of the total viewership that media and entertainment industry generates on TV. I'm not talking of going to the theater. And also because of experience, though I started as a journalist, I continue to write for newspapers. And I think the creative energies that are being unleashed across, particularly the OTT platforms, is incredible, from Patak Log in India to the various Netflix series that we get to see. So, and in any case, Mr. Arvind Mayaram referred very beautifully to the paradox, to the challenge, to the decline in the standards of news journalism that we have witnessed. And therefore, the need to be very careful that while information is a weapon, that how do you use this weapon? And we saw the damage it did during. Dr. Shahid Rasool did briefly refer to some of the points.
मैं वेबिनार पे ऑन हूँ, लेकिन इधर मत आना. तू मुझे एक लैपटॉप दे जिस पे मैं अगर ये बैठ गया तो
Anjum, Tabina, please mute your device. Tabina.
Okay.
Yeah. Professor Shahid did touch upon key facets of digital ecosystem and brought out the digital divide issue relating to India, Africa so brilliantly. His facts only strengthen the fact that new ecosystems already arrived, the very fact that we're discussing it. And he also referred to Thomas Friedman's World is Flat, and I think I'll briefly refer to it. The fact is, as we speak, what did I receive through the day? I received on the Facebook, the webinar was there. I received it on WhatsApp message. Somebody also sent it me on an email. So already as we speak, the new digital ecosystem is live and active. Some of those who have logged in must also be watching IPL matches on silent mode, hopefully, tweeting to friends, taking screenshot of this webinar and posting it on Instagram and so on. So therefore, sending live tweets, logging into Facebook and shopping for music or merchandise related to TV shows is quickly on the rise, including in India. And this trend shows no signs of slowing. The reason is because people on television, people on Twitter love television. And when they watch television news and they find something controversial or they want to comment, Twitter is the medium they resort to. So often they have two screens going as they watch and are influencers on all things TV related. So what is clear is that the use of second screens will continue to expand as we go along. And this to me is the digital ecosystem, which is expanding what I call the conversation ecosystem. We are no longer in the information era. We are no longer in the communication age. We have entered what I call the conversation ecosystem. Let me try and frame it in the context of immediate historical events that happened. When terrestrial transmission was defined by fixed schedule and monopoly, Doordarshan, and audience was captive, there was no choice. And when satellite industry came, fragmentation happened. But again, it was a fixed schedule. You had to be near the TV to watch what was being offered earlier by DD and later by terrestrial transmitters. And I remember a book by Alvin Toffler in Third Wave, in which he referred to that, and this was mid-80s, a time will soon come when we will say with regard to ABC, NBC, CBS, once upon a time. And this once upon a time he referred because in the 80s was the birth of the real satellite television, HBO first, MTV second. But there were some who thought that it won't necessarily pick up the terrestrial, NBC, CBS, the BBCs and the Doordarshan in India and TV France in France and so on would stay on. But when ESPN and CNN came in, of course, it didn't enthuse the commentators. That's why ESPN had to use the word entertainment and sports network, because they thought if only they put sports, nobody will buy it into the subscription. And CNN was dubbed as the chicken noodle network till the first Gulf War happened. And of course, the rest is story. And that is why Alvin Toffler called it the total massification happening to this demassification of audiences. But the critical was that time the content was the king and consumers were captive and therefore didn't count. The audience didn't count except a letter to the channel, but it didn't really count much. Now the new digital ecosystem of OTT is redefining the concept of broadcasting, both terrestrial and satellites, as understood earlier. It has unlocked transformational changes, 3 in particular in broadcast video content, and how video content is created, curated, consumed, reshared, recreated. And those 3 key elements I thought were the space shifting, place shifting, and time shifting. And these are the 3 critical elements that is happening to digital system. It is happening to TV as much. The space shifting is and I think the reason for all this is to one man, Steve Jobs, who introduced after satellite television in the 80s was the introduction of an iPhone, and with internet having come earlier, it made you to watch even when you are mobile. So space shifting, perhaps the change on the video value chain has been facilitated. Based distribution is no longer the only means to access for consumer. No longer are content creators and aggregators bound by the limited distribution bandwidth, and Shahid Rasool referred to it. Available on a fixed, even if large, number of TV channels, delivered over cable, air, or fiber or satellite. Distribution is no longer a zero-sum game. And that's a very vital difference that we see happening in broadcast industry. Then we have the place shifting. The combination of the shift in viewing to OTT has moved consumers away from linear appointment viewing. And today, nearly a quarter of all viewing hours is non-linear or time-shifted viewing. You don't have to have a fixed schedule to watch a particular thing at a particular time decided by the broadcaster. In short, we are seeing new digital and streaming services revolutionizing, changing how we watch TV, how we consume content, and how we generate a response to that content. And that is the conversation. So in a sense, simple terms, it's consumption of video content anywhere, any place, anytime. Now, obviously, this has changed what people watch and how they watch it, because nonlinear viewing supports some content types better. And that's where creativity comes in. It supports some content types better, formats better than others. I wouldn't go much greater into detail, but certainly certain content such as serialized dramas encourages viewing in bulk, also known as binge watching, since it is easier to follow multiple characters and plot lines. Further, some viewers prefer instant gratification to watching content that stretches out over months. Similarly, watching video on mobile phone, at home or in office or on the go, cannot be the same kind of long form viewing experience as watching on a big screen TV. And I think in this particular, we still have a long way to encourage young minds in our institutes to create short videos of 3 minutes to 5 minutes, which can be hugely popular, and all OTT networks or even TV networks will be looking for it. So therefore, while long form video remains very healthy, the rise in mobile use has driven significant demand for short-term, high quality, but I don't think we are able to produce that much. The supply simply doesn't exist. Therefore, the advent of content consumption and viewing experience has brought new players to content creation. It is amazing how, since the OTT platforms have come, that the creative energies of the young anonymous from small towns have become creative content creators. It's incredible across the world. It is perhaps we fail to recognize that there are now 1 billion content creators around the world. And these are beyond the traditional systems of broadcasting or even OTT platforms. And therefore, this limit of the definition of content creator needs to change. Dr. Shahid referred to Thomas Friedman, his famous book, World is Flat. And this is what he perhaps meant, that the world become, the technology will flatten the world, which will make everybody equal partner in terms of his ability to either start a company or contribute to content or write a blog or become a photographer. Now, the three critical things that we have seen as content creators have been the traditional professionals, and I personally think they will continue to be there because we do need high quality programming of the Titanic types, sacred games, and so on and so forth. Produce high quality wildlife, Untamed Africa, the Natural World of BBC, and so on and so forth. High quality content, well-defined funded ecosystem of studios, production houses, and professional talent, including actors and directors. I think this will continue. The second are the semi-ones, which are called the professional amateurs. They don't have access to large production infrastructure, but they have regular production schedules and profit motives, obviously, and they generate revenues. So there's the smaller production houses which have come up in the last 5 to 7, 10 years. Of course, I must admit that the risk of being immodest, that Discovery, National Geographic, our competitor, and also BBC when it started commissioning, did give a fillip to these small time producers and directors. And then there are the professional amateurs, and I was referring to this huge number out there. Incredible. I mean, if you look at the Bollywood, the way, or the sports, the way democratization of talent is happening in this country across all major story writers of small town, filmmakers, small town, not necessarily have gone to film schools. So these are the professional amateurs who don't have access to large production infrastructure, but have small regular production schedules managed with their mobile phones and so on, and contribute the content. And they are focused primarily on producing content either for YouTube or the social media or even for OTT and other platforms. Then the amateurs, of course, I referred to. What we are therefore witnessing is a clear distinction between the two formats, the professionals and the semi-professionals and the amateurs. In feature films, for example, we aim is to distill and condense 3 hours, 2.5 hours, 2 hours. While in a series, aim is to expand at depth and at depth because you want to continue the series. Similarly, data has shown that people do not want to watch talk shows on demand. It could change, but I'm saying the data as of today. Talk shows that cannot change topics in real time as global events unfold. So therefore, because people do want to watch the content in real time as it unfolds. So what we are seeing, therefore, is a global, and the audiences, the consumers want to participate in this entire ecosystem, what somebody calls the water cooler conversation. Of course, we will have the AI and machine learning helping us with streaming services, recommending because they would have done the profile of the audience or the viewer or the consumer. But the important thing about, another thing about the content of the future in the digital ecosystem, that any content that we produce must be shareable. It must have the shareability elements embedded. Versions of a single story for TV, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, that is what is going to be the future, because the content is going to be critical. The second is, we will also see and this is what somebody called the content virality. And the second is the content creation, a circular content begetting content. For example, when I post something on Facebook, an article, somebody else comments on it, that comment is by itself another article. For example, let me give you the example of a shareability that I happen to read. Let's say there is I'll have to read this. Let's say there is a musician makes a video at home of a new song, She records and posts the full video on YouTube. She takes photo or makes 15-second video for Instagram. She posts the video, same video, to her Facebook fan page. She uses video or audio of that video and posts it to MySpace. She transcribes lyrics from that video and adds them to her blog. Blog post gets automatically emailed to mailing list. She picks favorite lyrics and create Twitter. She makes a music album, offers to broadcast stations. 9 versions of a single video. I'm running short on time. I think it's 8:30 already. So what we are seeing is, let me try and conclude, is the birth of mini republics in media space, each trying to dominate the other. Each wanting to earn the space of the fifth estate, as the new ecosystem is being referred to by some commentators. Will the OTT platforms overshadow the broadcaster, or will the content production houses finally emerge the winner? I have no idea. I have no answer. Will the broadcasters take the revenge and get into solid distribution and also content of a high quality? Only time will say. However, what is clear is that technology is a facilitator. It's like a camera, and nobody would know it better than Tabina. A camera does not take a picture or a photograph, sorry. A picture is framed in the mind or composed in the mind, fine-tuned by the eye, and the instrument called camera captures with the aid of technology. Therefore, mind will continue to be supreme when it comes to creativity, because creativity involves emotions and empathy, something that technology cannot claim to have. It's worth recalling an interview Steve Jobs gave to when somebody asked him, are you into manufacturing? He says, no. He says, are you into software? He says, no. He says, I'm in the business of offering an experience interface of content with the consumer. Therefore, what we are seeing in this whole ecosystem of information age, terrestrial, satellite age was the communication era, and the birth of the social media, and now of course OTT is the conversation, because content must generate conversation. People must talk about your content, and that is the index of a good program. And therefore, what we are seeing, while content continues to be the king, the new emperor on is the consumer, because he has the power and the choice, both of devices and the platforms. And in this, the attention is going to be the critical factor. How do you seek and retain the attention? So if that is so, then perhaps we need to revisit the mantra of broadcasting, which was created in the BBC Charter of late 1920s, is to inform, educate, and entertain. Perhaps a time has come in this multi-channel, when we consume multi-media consumption happening at the same time, is that we must not only inform, but also inspire content. Content must not only educate, but also engage, but must not only entertain, but also enrich. An ecosystem that experience iPhone offers, or perhaps the convenience of Amazon in terms of accessing content and the way it is consumed and the way it is shared, and the speed of Google events unfolding before us in real time. It's going to be live all the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Ogra, for this well-meaning and well-articulated lecture. Thank you so much. You rightly said that content should not only entertain, but it should also educate. Now we'll move forward, and one more time, congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Now, we may move forward to our next segment. We have a corporate speaker with us, Dr. Akash Muni. Dr. Akash Muni is a communication professional and media scholar who is working as associate professor and head Department of Journalism and Mass Communication at Lovely Professional University. Dr. Muni is a regular panelist at national news channels like Republic TV and Times Now. He writes regular opinion articles on politics, economy, and education. Dr. Muni, can we have you, please?
Sure, Tavina, and thank you. I hope my voice is clear.
Yeah, you're loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would thank GMEC to invite me in this occasion. And thank you all for giving your precious time to listen to me. Now, being a corporate person coming from corporate milieu, there are certain things that I want to bring into perspective. And as the topic given to me is changing media landscape and digital divide, I would take us back just 6 years ago. And friends, 6 years ago, our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji gave a statement, and he said, and I'll read it out, that माना कि हमारे पूर्वज सांप के साथ खेलते थे, पर हम mouse के साथ खेलते हैं. Now, why it is important is that after the statement, with the statement, he launched the Digital Media, Digital India initiative in 2015, which intends to change the way this whole country works and the way people think. And friends, whosoever is listening to me, just changing the technology is not it. The changing the way people think is it. And this is how the statement changed the way people think. I'll give you some examples. To digitize all land records, to digitize all land documents. This was the intention. Now, what it did later on is that today, as per Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, that's TRAI, 825 million people in this country by the end of the March 2021, as per the reports. We are in October now, are internet users. Just imagine, over 70% of internet users. And coming from corporate, I can say that my companies, the companies I work for, who were previously investing crores of rupees in print and electronic, specifically electronic TV media, have lowered down their investment and advertisement in TV media and shifted it to digital. Why they have shifted it to digital? Because of one reason is that the moment you click, the number of screens have increased. The moment you click a website, all your information goes into it. So the digital world has changed the way people think, people advertise, people behave today. And definitely, I don't think that OTT will take on television. But of course, digital marketing will. With the rise in the social media users being 21% every year, as per reports, which was 8% till 2020. And yes, this pandemic has many positive aspects, and the positive aspect is digital world. People have grown and went towards the digital world. Now, one more thing. Now, while the people go towards the digital world, now some people will say that, okay, there is a huge digital divide in India. There is a huge proportion of people who aren't on internet. I acknowledge, yes, but this digitization will be helping them in a lot of way through governance. And this brings back to the same statement which I made in the start of our Honorable Prime Minister. Now, governance will be better with digitization. But then comes a question. Will digital world take on the non-digital world? Should Republic TV, where I come often enough, will they be shifted to republicworld.com? I think that's not coming early. There are few reasons I'll drag your attention to. The main reason is digital world is free, which is going to change in coming times. Yes, lately Amazon Prime has hiked its price rates and touched Netflix, and Netflix is growing and Amazon is growing, but then also they are still gaining losses here in India. So in India, still our TV will stay. OTT is not going to take on. OTT means over the top. But one thing, this digitization will bring e-learning into forefront. If you go through some of the records and data, India is the forefront in investment in e-learning. Baiju is earning millions after COVID. And also through e-payments. We all know the story of Paytm. And don't we know the story of Zomato recently, which went into the market and became hot cakes. These all things, e-learning, e-commerce, e-payments, e-governance, these all things point to one single attribute: the digital world will grow. The business will go to the digital world. Business will go away through the offline world towards the online world. And one of the research that I want, that one of my researcher is doing, which is, I think, which is going to come after 20 or 30 years from now, is VR, virtual reality. Some of the big minds in America today study at home, go for homeschooling. And with the pandemic, one aspect that has touched all of us is homeschooling. Which is why I must stress upon one simple thing, is that VR, that is virtual reality, will be the next pivotal point after digital world. Where at home you put on a virtual reality machine on your eyes and few machines in your hand and can do whatever you would like to in an offline world. So with e-learning, e-content, e-commerce, e-payments, and e-governance, I firmly believe the digital world will grow and digital divide will come narrower and narrower. And with this, on this platform, I want to emphasize one single thing which I've been telling since a long time. 20 years from now, friends, virtual reality will come. And virtual reality will be the future. However, as it is not still pocket friendly like the OTT, because OTT is not pocket friendly, it is not gaining such huge subscribers. Similarly, as virtual reality is not pocket friendly, it is not gaining huge subscribers. But who knows? Just 10 years down the line, we all knew that internet was costly and it was not easy to use. Today we have internet, and I have connected my phone, my laptop with my mobile phone, and I'm talking. Was this possible 10 years ago? No. Will virtual reality be possible now? No. But it is a distant future. It may be possible. Okay, with this, I'll wrap up my talk. And if there is any questions, kindly put on, otherwise we'll wrap it up. Tabina,
You're on mute. Tabina, you're on mute.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akash, for the lecture. Thank you so much. And we would really also want it in the print form. You can just email this to us. Thank you so much. Now, take the session forward. And now is the time for the keynote speaker to come and deliver the keynote address. And for doing the honors, may I please request Dr. Uma Shankar Pandey, who's the Associate Professor and Vice President at GMEC, to come and introduce our keynote speaker for the day. Dr. Pandey.
Thank you, Dr. Tabina, for this invitation, and it's indeed a delight having to getting to speak here. Before introducing Massimo, I must thank our Superman Secretary, Professor Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary, for taking it so far. Our Honorable President is not here today, but he's definitely watching. Professor Shahid Rasool Saab, one of the most distinguished and dignified academicians in the country. Professor Ashok Ogra Saab. There is hardly anyone in the country who doesn't have good words to say about our Guru Ogra Saab. So it's such a delight having been here. And as you might be knowing that the International Association for Media and Communication Research is one of the academic partners for this historic Global Communication Education Conclave. And we're delighted to invite the IMCR Digital Divide co-chair, a very distinguished academician. And very recently, he has been promoted to associate professor. So probably after being promoted, this is his first international conference. So we are extremely proud that it is another historic occasion. So Dr. Massimo Ragneda is an associate professor in media and communication at Northumbria University, Newcastle, UK. He conducts research on the digital divide and social media. As I said, he's the co-chair of the Digital Divide Working Group. He's the co-convener of the NINSO, Northumbria Internet and Society Research Group, and co-editor of the Palgrave Studies in Digital Inequalities book series. He has authored and edited 15 books with his publications appearing in numerous peer-reviewed journals. And he is a truly, a multilingual specialist because he has book chapters in English, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and Russian. His books include Enhancing Digital Equity, Connecting the Digital Underclass by Palgrave in 2020, Digital Capital, a Bourdieuan Approach to Digital Divide with Maria Laura Rui, Emerald 2020, Digital Inclusion and International Comparative Analysis, edited with another good friend, Dr. Bruce Mutsuiro, Theorizing the Digital Divide, co-edited with another good friend, Glenn Muscott, and so I can go on and on talking about Dr. Massimo, but we'd rather hear from him. So thank you, Massimo, for accepting the invite, and we are looking forward to your keynote.
Thank you very much, Uma, for this lovely presentation. So if you don't mind, I will share my slides. Yes, probably you needed to give me yes. Let's see, here we are.
Is this voice a little low, or am I?
Dr. Massimo, if your voice is slightly low, what you can do it for a bit is switch off your camera and.
Okay, yes. So let me then switch off my camera.
Yeah, your PPT is visible. Please go ahead. Please go ahead, Dr. Massimo.
Okay, so thank you very much. As I said about this lovely presentation, I'll start my chrono now. So I'll be talking about promoting digital rights. So as we know, the access, the use of ICTs is a new civil right. I know sometimes we underestimate this, but in a digital society where we are living, the access, not only the access, but also the use of ICTs is an essential necessity to be a full citizen. Trying to imagine the importance of digital content, digital resources, digital opportunities during the pandemic time. So what I'll be arguing today is that an insufficient and unequal access to the internet can create new forms of social segregation. These new forms of social segregation can exacerbate, can reinforce already existing social inequality. This is one of my leitmotiv in my books and my article, that social and digital inequality are intertwined. They tend to reinforce each other. So in a digital society, being excluded from the digital realm means missing opportunity to improve one's quality of life. So it's not only the access to the latest news that we all need, to the latest update on Facebook, on Twitter, it's the access to opportunities, the access to resources, the access to knowledge that could improve one's quality of life. So as we all know, the advent of ICTs, the information and communication technologies, have granted many privileges to the users, to us. I mean, we are, let's say, the one sitting on the right side of the digital divide. But also, the advent of ICTs gave rise to complex forms of exclusion, affecting those already marginalized. So that's what I'll be arguing. As I said earlier, one of the leitmotifs is that socially, digital inequality are strongly intertwined. The advent of the new digital inequalities is reinforcing already existing social inequalities. So these are some obstacles. There are some obstacles that prevent specific social groups. Every country has a specific social group from accessing and properly using technology. This is what has been broadly, let's say, defined as the digital divide. However, this definition of a digital divide could be somehow a bit, let's say, it's a definition over simplistic. It's a kind of dichotomic division. It's like that we are assuming that exist only two groups. Someone that accesses the internet, someone who is excluded. Someone who is totally in, someone that is totally out. So a kind of black and white division, dichotomic division. This polarization is not really how digital inequality is appearing, because is it possible to observe different degrees of inclusion, different degrees of accessing use of ICTs? So what I'm saying is that this complex phenomenon, digital divide, cannot be analyzed only from one point of view, the access. So in other words, we cannot reduce digital divide to a simple technological and economical factor. This would be a kind of Marxist approach, because we are simply analyzing one factor, the economical factor. But as I'm going to show now, it's a bit more complicated. That's why we introduce the so-called three levels of the digital divide. So the first level is what exactly we were talking now. So the first level is inequality in accessing the internet. Someone accesses, someone not. In the world, there are at least 40% of the world population. So more than 3 billion people in the world that do not access at all to the internet. That's the first level. So let's concentrate now on the other 60%, on those that could access the internet. Even there are some kind of inequality. That's what we define the second level of the digital divide. So inequalities in usage skills, inequalities in the way in which we use the internet. And then lately, we have introduced the third level of digital divide. So inequalities in outcomes. of internet access and use. So exactly what we get from using the internet. I'll be talking a bit more about this. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that assessing the internet alone is not enough. So assessing the internet is okay, is the first step, but is not enough to be digitally included. So, yeah. So it is also necessary to have the capacity to use, the capacity to create, the capacity to successfully navigate, also the capacity to understand online content. So it's not only a matter of accessing the internet, but it's also a matter of understanding online content. Be safe to create new content. So citizens need the ability to utilize the digital infrastructure, not to simply access digital infrastructure. So as you can see here, there is a clear difference. Citizens need not only the ability to access the digital infrastructure, but we all need the ability to utilize digital infrastructures. So what I'm trying to say is that that's part of the policymakers that should take care of the digital inclusion. So digital inclusion is providing support to the society, is providing digital literacy, is creating digital inequality, digital equity, is providing support to bridge the free level of digital divide. That's why, because those who are digitally included can more easily access services that impact positively on their lives. So as I said earlier, it's not only the access to the latest update on Facebook that you all check, of course, on Twitter, etc., but it's the access to service, it's the access to resources, it's the access to opportunities, it's the access to all these kind of aspects that could improve our quality of life. But above all, and that's what I truly believe, is that digital inclusion could tackle social inequalities by providing solutions for socially disadvantaged citizens. It is a huge responsibility that we have as a media scholars, as a media educators, but it's also a responsibility that both private and public institutions have, include the disadvantaged one by using information or communication technology. That's why here I'm trying to promote free digital rights that are connected to the free level of digital divide that I have just introduced. So to permit a full engagement in society, to promote digital equity, we need to guarantee free digital rights, digital access, and we'll go through it, digital competencies, and digital empowerment. So digital access, so that's a kind of global digital divide. You can see the first level of the digital divide here. So you can see how some countries tend to have a higher penetration compared to the others. If you look in Northern Europe, we have around 95–96% of the population accessing the internet, while Middle Africa, Eastern Africa, they have around 25%, 1 out of 4 accessing it. So in order to promote it, so we need to promote the digital access. This access is free or affordable access to ICTs. So public and also private actors may need to implement new policies, may need to implement new infrastructures to guarantee access to ICTs. But when I say access to ICT, I mean also not only the access to digital content, but also access in terms of workstations. We need to keep in mind all different users. In terms of broadband connectivity, someone earlier was talking about the broadband connectivity. It's absolutely right, because it is not only the access to the internet, but it's also the quality of access to the internet. So we need to consider the needs, the requirements of different users, older people, children, people with disabilities at the design and development stage. So accessing the internet, as I said a few times today, means not only accessing digital content, but also accessing services. And forgive me if I repeat this point, but we all appreciate the importance of accessing during the pandemic, accessing services, accessing resources, accessing opportunity. So that's the first digital rights that we need to promote. But let's move to the second one. So what I'm trying to say is that even in a country that have a high level of internet penetration, such as the UK, for instance, there are some forms of inequalities. That's some of the stats that I have, some of the data that I have about the UK. 80% of the UK population are with no basic digital skills. So even if they access the internet, they cannot use it at all. So they are excluded. So technically they are included because they can access the internet, but they are totally excluded. 21% with only limited digital awareness. 24% is quite important data of the UK are not able to verify the source of information found online. So try to imagine the importance of these. 1 out of 4 people in the UK are not able to verify the source of information. Try to imagine the importance for fake news, for instance, for the vaccine in these days. 60% are not able to fill out an online application forms. So what I'm saying is that the lack of digital skills as a real, the lack of digital skills has a concrete implication in the social life. These citizens with basic digital skills are excluded from the digital arena. In so doing, they are further reinforcing social inequality. So that's why I introduced the second element. So the second digital rights, digital competencies. And I have these pictures of the library because the library play, along with the schools, of course, a vital role. Because the digital inclusion initiative must also meet the citizen needs by providing skills, by providing literacy training. So assisting citizens in using ICTs and in evaluating and creating digital content is vital. It's vital to tackle the second level of the digital divide that, as we have seen, is the inequalities in using the internet, inequality in digital skills. So by providing knowledge and digital resources, people might enjoy the use of ICTs and make it a satisfactory experience and lead to a more equal society. So let's move to the third one, and I'm going towards the conclusion, digital empowerment. What I mean by digital empowerment? Well, I mean the capacity to enhance the social position by using ICTs, by using internet, by using information and communication technology. So digital inclusive projects should enable citizens to use ICTs, to improve their quality of life by training citizens how to take advantage of opportunity available through ICTs. So since the third level of a digital divide is, as I said earlier, is intertwined, is entangled with already existing social inequality, it is embedded in the social structure. It is the most complicated to bridge, it's the most complicated to close. But this is the very essence of the digital inclusion process. Because as I said, the digital inclusion process all over the world should be intended as the process through which people could improve their social position. It's the process through which should enhance social inclusion through digital technology. It's the process through which we should reduce social inequalities by using ICTs. So we need, therefore, to build a digitally inclusive society. All over the world, from India to Italy, from the UK to China, all over the world, we need to create an inclusive, a digitally inclusive society, to build digital inclusive societies, to include the most disadvantaged citizens. It is necessary to reduce institutional and structural obstacles to access and use ICT. So if you remind the first two levels of the digital divide, it means exactly this. Give access to everyone and give the skills to everyone. But also, digital inclusion process needed to focus also on the outcomes. So what we get, better jobs, better salary, better knowledge, rather than only on technology. That's one of the issues with the policymakers. That sometimes they think digital divide only in terms of access. That's one of the issues of digital inclusion. Sometimes they think only in terms of accessing the internet, but it's also in terms of explaining citizens should train citizens how to take advantage of the economic opportunities that are offered through ICT, the personal opportunities offered by ICT, political, cultural, and social opportunities. So that's the conclusion for staying in the 15 minutes. All citizens need to have the relevant access, the relevant skills, the relevant motivation to properly access and navigate the web. Any attempt to tackle social inequalities with ICTs and promote digital equity needs to promote free digital rights, digital access, digital competencies, and digital empowerment. If barriers, and I want to repeat this again in the last few seconds, if barriers to digital inclusion are not addressed, the digital divide will further increase inequality by cementing existing social divides. The benefit of digital equity, so in promoting these free digital rights, go well beyond the single citizen and affect the community as a whole. It's a bit of a reference on where I talk about this, and thank you very much for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this lovely, lovely session, such meaningful session, Massimo. We are so honored to have you today, and we have thoroughly, enjoyed what you said and your well-meaning, presentation. So many points there indeed. And we have a couple of quick questions for you from our learned audience. So may I start with the questions? Wait. Yeah, Massimo, there are two questions. One is, while digital access and empowerment are must to exercise democratic citizenship today, to what extent is the internet and social media influenced, skewed, and biased? What can be done to ensure real net neutrality?
Well, this is quite a complicated question because it's touching on several different topics. So the one is about the bias, and tomorrow I'll be giving a talk on this, on the bias, specifically the bias provided by artificial intelligence, algorithmics. That's one of the big issues that we have, specifically on social media, but not only on social media. The other one is about the net neutrality. There's also a huge discussion, specifically in the US, there were a huge discussion. Yes, so briefly, I want to just reinforce what I said earlier. We have these free digital rights that we needed to promote at all levels. So the digital access, as I said many times, is the access to online content, but also the access to opportunity, the access to resources. So all these opportunities and resources are also available on social media. And honestly, we cannot think, we cannot be considered a fully citizen in a digital society if we don't access, if we don't properly use these. Of course, there are some biases, and that's one of the issues, but that's why it comes to the second aspect, digital competencies. Because through digital competencies, we can understand when some information are true or not, we can understand when the information are biased or not, we can understand how to deal and where to find the source of information. As we have seen from my stats, and I'll conclude this part, 24%, so 1 out of 4 people in the UK are not able to retrieve the source of the information found online. So that's really dangerous for the democracy, because it's a danger for the fake news. It's a danger for those in a populist way exploit this kind of information. It's dangerous because this could reinforce racism, could reinforce violence, could reinforce hate speech, for instance. This is another big issue. So what we can do is, as I said earlier, is promoting digital competencies. And this could be done, we should be done this as media educators, but also library and all the public and private institutions could promote it. Hope I answered this question.
You talked about digital inclusion, and you did mention about digital inclusion projects. So are there any suggestions that GMEC can take up such projects in South Asian nations? Some examples, please, if you can,
Yes, I mean, they are, for instance, I can talk about some example here in the UK in which I have collaborated. They are, that's why I mentioned the library. The library, for instance, is one of the hotspots, is one of the best places in which specifically older citizens, before the pandemic, now it's a bit more complicated. Before the pandemic, used to go in order to learn basic digital skills. So for instance, we have seen that here in the UK, where there is a really high level of internet penetration, 94, 95%, but we still have 20% of the population with basic digital skills. So digital inclusion project means exactly this, including those with low level of digital skills by providing simple aspect, how to access email, how to complete an online forms, how to retrieve information, how to search online, and so on and so forth. So this kind of activity that looks so, let's say, familiar to all of us, that we sit on the right side of the digital divide, are so vital for those who are excluded. So for those that, even if they access the internet, are totally excluded because they have basic digital skills. So one of the things that could be done, for instance, in Asia, is to approach specifically those with basic digital skills, such as elderly people, and teach them basic digital skills, how to access, how to create online content, how to collaborate, how to navigate, how to feel secure. Because at the end of the day, we interview some of the old people that use the internet. One of the reasons why they are now withdrawing from the use of the internet is because they don't feel secure. It's because their experience of using the internet is not satisfactory. So we needed to give them the confidence they need to navigate in a satisfactory way the internet. That, for instance, is something in concrete that we can do.
Thank you so much, Massimo. Thank you so much. And we'll be connected and have the speech, the full lecture for you, which will get published in our book. Now, we are in the last segment of this evening. We are almost in the concluding segment now. In 4-5 minutes, the session will be concluded. For now, for the concluding remarks, I will request the co-chair for the evening today, Professor Shahid Rasool, to conclude today's session. Thank you, sir. So your mic, yeah.
Thank you very much, Tabina, for this wonderful session that you ably moderated. And I must place on record the appreciation for all the speakers who were with us. To begin with, Dr. Arvind Mayaramji, the former Finance Secretary of India, which I thought will talk more about. We will talk more about the finances and the economy rather than he talked about the media. And he did show us a mirror of how media can manipulate things, right? When he gave the examples of the 2G, 3G, and the coal scam, how the things were overplayed by the media, and which is very dangerous for any democracy. And that's why we are very much worried about the epithet that the media carries, that it is a fourth important pillar of the democracy. And if the media plays in the way it played in the past, I mean, it's going to be very dangerous and very suffocating for the democracy to survive. He also, talked about how public perceptions can be changed, and which also later on impact the policy formulation of the governments. And in fact, I am reminded of a PhD thesis which I read long back, which was done by one former secretary who did PhD after the retirement. And he had given the vivid details of how the newspaper reports in Indian Express, Times of India, Hindustan Times became the part and the parcel of the parliamentary discussions and the debates, and then resulted in the policy formulations. So this is, the power of the media that was there. He also talked about, how the digital divide is favoring the big corporates because they have the resources for the data mining, and then they can, dictate the terms to this. Of course, there are these are some of the issues which, of course, are debatable because there are different, schools of thought. When we are getting into the social media age, the things are changing, because now there is a concept of the citizen journalists, and then there's a concept of Facebook journalists, and then there are the memes which are coming, and then they are overtaking the prime time television also at times. So, but this was a highly academic discourse by Arvind Mayaramji, which was eye opener for all of us, the media educators. As usual, Professor Ashok Ograji, he talked about the birth of new mini media republics. That was a takeaway from his speech. Highly articulated and insightful, the speech that he made. He also referred to the digital multitasking. And in fact, when he was speaking about the multitasking, I was definitely doing something. And I think Tabina and all of us were also chatting on the WhatsApp, and we were also reflecting on what's being sent, and the USP and the Ujjwal ji were also writing on the chat book. So the digital multitasking is already happening, and this multitasking happening more with the digital natives, because they are basically multitaskers. He also talked about the demand for high quality content will of course remain. And new media asks for the different packaging of the content, taking into account the characteristics of the mobile phones, because as McLuhan says, medium is the message. So the message is also to be now packaged in a way so that it reaches to the new audience who are watching these things on the mobile. And another thing which is happening with the digital natives is that the time span is very small. That's why probably the long form of the videos, long narratives are losing the sheen. They are giving it to the small memes and small short films on the OTT platforms. Nonetheless, he also emphasized with one detailed reading how the scalability of the content is very important. When we are generating the content for the media, or anybody is doing it, how the scalability of that is important. We had one corporate speaker, Dr. Akashdeep Muni, who said that OTTs will not probably take over the TV, and the digitization will take, and the virtual reality is there to stay. There is a possibility which we are seeing now, because we are experiencing all in our homes, that the television watching as a family medium has gone down. We selectively watch our things on our mobile sets. You may have 1 or 2 or 3 television sets at your home. I remember only a few years back or a decade back, there used to be a fight on the remote control. Now nobody asks for the remote control, because everybody has control in his own hands, and you watch your own content on your own small screen. So that is the reality. So the OTT platforms definitely are creating one commercial platform also for the small players, and it's also creating a new set of audience. We had a very interesting keynote speak by Dr. Massimo Ragneda. I think I must congratulate you for bringing in how the digital what you call the exclusion will result in disempowering the people and disempowering the democracies as such. He stressed on the digital inclusion, which is very important. Nonetheless, what's happening right now, as I said in my opening remarks also, that we are seeing that there is a great leveling taking place. The data consumption is going up even in the rural and the remote areas also. So that is creating the new opportunities for the new people. He also rightly stressed that it is not only the data and the mobile and the digital technology that should be available. There should also be available the digital literacy, and we should teach people, and the capacity building programs I think should be done, so that the people know how to use the data, how to use the new mobile technology, how to use the digital technology, so that they stay informed. And he said rightly that access is not enough. We shall be able to fully utilize the digital power. This digital power, as Professor Ograji was also saying, is more with the corporates than with the small users. So what is important is that we have to increase the digital competencies of the end users, irrespective of their place, so that the digital divide will not come in way of creating the digital exclusions. What's also very important at this stage is that while technology is permeating all spheres of our life, it is permeating our media landscape is fast changing. Our viewing habits are changing, and the opportunities are there, great opportunities are there, people to make use of the digital technology. What's also important is for us as media educators is to bring in the human element. we have to teach our students the empathy. We have to teach them, what's important, how to live in a global world, because we are now global citizens, and global citizens have their own responsibilities, because it's not a small confined society now, where the digital technology has increased the reach of the media. At the same time, it brings on responsibility on us, so that we train our new media professionals to remain human, and they have stress on the inclusiveness, stress on the the multicultural, multilingual, multi-religious societies, so that they can live in harmony. And if that is done, that is the only way we can really celebrate and commemorate 75 years of the freedom, and continue to bask in the glory of the freedom in the years to come. With these few words, I thank the GMEC for giving me the opportunity to chair this session. Especially, I thank Professor K.G. Suresh, Professor Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary ji, Tabina for nicely articulating and nicely organizing, moderating this entire session. So I thank you all, and good night, and we will meet next time as and when the session. But one thing, Professor Ujjwal ji, I was seeing that the participation doesn't seem to be, that much, because if I see my screen, there are only 20 participants right now who are on. And maybe there are some other people who are watching us on the YouTube.
Yeah, they are watching us from different media. This 20 is only for us, we speakers who have the 20 the links.
Great. That's
yeah,
great.
because
Because
to avoid, the sound and this, we have kept two separate.
One is this, that there is one session 20, there is a separate session, then there is live streaming. This is one. Second is all of these are being printed also, the next level. Each of these evening is being edited into a film and put in YouTube, and the link is being shared, shall be shared with all the academicians of media. So there are synchronous viewing, there is asynchronous reading and viewing, both on each session. Thank you.
That's great. So what's important for us is to understand the power of the digital technology that is there, and then try to utilize that digital technology for the media landscape and the overall, what we call for the betterment of the mankind, and for the betterment of this universe. With these few words, I thank you all once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Shahid Rasool, for summing it up so beautifully and so meaningfully. You have really, you summed up the evening in a flow. Thank you so much. Now we're in the last leg. I would like to, to conclude the session by thanking everybody, all of you who have attended, taken out their precious time and attended the webinar today, our eminent speakers, the listeners, researchers, eminent academicians who have joined us, our panelists, everyone. I would like to thank Professor K.G. Suresh, President, GCEC, Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary, Secretary, GCEC, Professor Amrish Saxena, Vice President, GCEC, Dr. Uma Shankar Pandey, Vice President, GCEC. I thank each and every member of GMEC and GCEC for making this possible. I thank every speaker, every eminent speaker, Dr. Arvind Mayaram, Dr. Mazimo Regneda, Professor Ashok Ogra, Dr. Akash, for being with us this evening and for enlightening us with your words. I would also like everybody at GCEC who worked tirelessly to make the show design, technology, and content success. Last but not the least, let me thank all those who spared time to attend today's webinar. Knowledge, as they say, will never go waste. We will see you on 28th October with another set of experts and stalwarts to initiate discourse on media education discourse across cultural boundaries. Kindly block the date and time, October 28, 2021 at 7:30, and Professor Monica Verma of Makhanlal Chaturvedi University will be the host. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you so much, and good night to all.